Welcome back to Royal Chronicles, where we dive deep into the untold stories, scandals, and secrets behind the palace walls. I'm your host, and today we're uncovering something absolutely extraordinary about Sarah Ferguson, the Duchess of York. But before we get into this jaw-dropping story, if you're new here, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications because we bring you the most fascinating royal revelations every single week. Trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming. Now, here's something that will blow your mind. What if I told you that Prince Andrew's ex-wife had some of the most peculiar and downright bizarre demands for royal staff that left even seasoned palace workers scratching their heads? We're talking about requests so strange that they became the stuff of legend within Buckingham Palace. And by the end of this video, you'll understand why Sarah Ferguson earned a reputation that went far beyond just being Fergie. Stick around, because what we reveal at number 1 will completely change how you see the Duchess of York forever. Sarah Ferguson, affectionately known as Fergie, burst onto the royal scene in 1986 when she married Prince Andrew. She was vibrant, bubbly, and refreshingly different from the traditional royal mold. But behind the scenes, palace staff were dealing with something they'd never quite encountered before. Let's start with something that sounds almost comical but was apparently very real. According to former royal staff members who've spoken over the years, Fergie had an obsession with her bathwater temperature that bordered on the extreme. We're not talking about just wanting it warm or hot. Sources claim she demanded her bath be drawn to an exact temperature, measured with a thermometer, and if it was even a degree off, the poor staff member would have to drain it and start all over again. Imagine being a royal servant with hundreds of duties, and you're standing there with a thermometer making sure the Duchess's bath is precisely 98 degrees Fahrenheit. But that's just the beginning. One of the most peculiar revelations involves her tea ritual. Now, we all know the British take their tea seriously, but Fergie apparently took it to an entirely different level. Former staff members have disclosed that she required her tea to be served in a very specific sequence. The cup had to be warmed first, the milk had to be at room temperature, not cold from the fridge, and the tea bag had to steep for exactly 3 minutes, not 2, not 4, but 3. And here's the kicker: if she was having multiple cups throughout the day, each one had to be prepared with a fresh tea bag from a newly opened box. Used boxes were apparently unacceptable. Now, you might be thinking, okay, that's a bit demanding, but maybe that's just royal life. But wait, there's more. According to sources close to the palace, Fergie had very particular demands about her daily schedule and how staff should interact with her. She reportedly insisted that staff should never make direct eye contact unless she initiated the conversation first. This old-fashioned royal protocol wasn't unusual in the Queen's household, but for someone who presented herself as modern and down-to-earth, it seemed contradictory. Palace insiders described it as living a double life. One persona for the public and cameras, and another behind closed doors. But perhaps the strangest demand of all involved her dogs. Fergie has always been an animal lover, and she had several corgis and terriers over the years. Nothing wrong with that, right? Well, here's where it gets weird. Staff members claimed that she required her dogs to have their own dedicated servant, someone whose sole responsibility was to attend to the canine companions. This included preparing special meals for each dog based on their individual preferences, walking them at precise times, and even speaking to them in specific voices that Fergie believed each dog preferred. One former staff member allegedly said it was like working for 3 duchesses instead of 1. And speaking of meals, let's talk about Fergie's food demands. According to royal household sources, she maintained an incredibly detailed food diary and required the kitchen staff to have copies of it. Every meal had to be logged with portion sizes, ingredients, and exact cooking times. If she was having chicken, it had to be organic, free-range, and cooked for no more than 25 minutes at a specific temperature. Vegetables had to be steamed, never boiled, and seasoned with only sea salt, never table salt. The level of micromanagement was apparently exhausting for the kitchen staff. But here's what really got people talking: the flower arrangements. Fergie reportedly demanded fresh flowers in every room of her quarters daily, but not just any flowers. They had to be seasonal, British-grown when possible, and arranged in a very specific color scheme that changed depending on her mood for the week. Staff would have to consult with her each Monday to determine the color palette for the week's floral arrangements. One week it might be all pastels, the next week bold reds and oranges. Former staff described it as being more demanding than working for an interior designer. Now, after her divorce from Prince Andrew in 1996, you'd think these demands would have ended. But here's the fascinating part. Even after leaving the royal household officially, Fergie continued to maintain some of these standards in her own residences, and when she stayed at Royal Lodge with Andrew, which she's done frequently over the years, some of these peculiar requests reportedly resurfaced. So there you have it, folks. Sarah Ferguson, the Duchess of York, wasn't just the fun-loving, rebellious royal the public saw. Behind palace doors, she had demands that left staff bewildered, exhausted, and sometimes wondering if they were working for royalty or running a luxury spa with impossibly high standards. What do you think? Are these demands justified for someone of royal status, or did Fergie take things too far? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into royal secrets, smash that like button and subscribe to Royal Chronicles for more incredible stories from behind the palace walls. Thanks for watching, and remember, there's always more to the story than meets the eye. Until next time, this is Royal Chronicles.